Hey, welcome back to the shop. So this will be a many-part series for this White Oak Vanity. It's solid white oak. I'm going to show you how I got this far with the carcass in this part. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, let's get into it. As with any woodworking project, it begins with breaking down lumber. So you can see me there checking my notes, making sure that I'm not going to screw anything up. Because screwing up white oak is kind of an expensive mistake. So, yeah, just checking your notes, making sure you're referencing your plans. I use a SketchUp file typically, build it in SketchUp, and then I go out in the shop and build it. So, I write a cut list out, and I just take that cut list with me out to the shop, and it makes, it streamlines the process of getting lumber broken down. So, um, fun fact, I got this lumber from an online retailer. Um, it's the first time I've ever done anything like that. It's called Woodworker's Source. I more or less did it as a trial to see how that kind of stuff would work. Um, just because I thought it was kind of odd to buy wood online because you're not hand selecting your lumber, but it was actually a pretty good experience. Everything looked really good. So I probably will be doing more of that in the future. Oh, yeah, so I'm just gluing up those cut pieces for a leg assembly. Okay, anybody who knows anything about saw stop table saws um, may have seen one of these before. Um, Not a good sign
It's not a good sign.
because it means that I engaged the brake on the saw stop. I don't know how I did it. I was using my crosscut sled that I've used dozens of times since I've built it for this saw. I can't find any embedded metal or anything, but nonetheless, it engaged, and now I'm down a brake, and I can't run the saw without a brake because it's part of the safety system. You can override it when you have a brake inside of it,
Oh, you're freaking out. Don't freak out. Don't freak out.
but I don't have a brake to put in it, and I don't have a woodcraft near me or a rockler, so I've basically got to wait until I can get one in the mail. So I bought two,
He's broke now.
so that if this happens again, at least I'm not out of commission here. And I do have a backup table saw, and I do have a miter saw that I'm going to be using until I can get this thing back up and running. But frustrating and expensive. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, I'm honestly still not sure what happened there. I really dug into the crosscut sled, and I looked really hard for a piece of metal, or I checked to see if something was wet. I couldn't find anything, and the thing about the saw stop is anything conductive is going to throw that thing. So it's not just a finger. Obviously, I'd much rather waste a blade and a brake than my finger, but it is expensive. But nevertheless, we press on. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the joiner ready to joint one side of that glue up for the stretchers for the leg assembly. Um, I don't have a ton of clamps, so I gotta do a bunch of different glue ups here, and then I'm breaking those down for the final size. Well, pretty close to the final size. I'll get to the final size on the planer, but getting that stuff milled down and ready for the leg assembly, and then we'll glue that stuff up. Just to touch on buying the wood from an online retailer again, I saved a ton of time that I would normally be spending milling because I work with a lot of rough cut lumber, and you definitely you definitely put in a huge time investment into getting that stuff milled down to the thickness you want and making sure it's all square. And I really do like this approach. It's a little bit more money up front, but you definitely make it in the back end, just because I'm not spending as much of my time milling lumber. So at the end, the customer makes out well too, because I don't have to price as high because it's not taking me as long to break down lumber. But here I am planing it down to just under 3/4 of an inch. Those pieces are going to be for the side panels. You can see them put together there. I got them laid out, making sure that the grain orientation looks good. One thing to touch on with grain orientation when it comes to panels is you're going to want to make sure that the grain is, the V's are pointing up, and I think that's just like an aesthetic thing. That's the way it was taught to me, but you definitely want to make sure that the grain is running upwards. They call that like cathedrals up. So yeah, it's just more pleasing to the eye, and taking time to look at those things and orient the grain properly, it's what sets a good piece apart from a great piece. So just paying attention to grain orientation makes it look a lot nicer, and makes things look like you took the extra time to care. So here I'm just putting pocket holes into stretchers. These stretchers are going to hold the two leg assemblies together across the back. You can see that's like an L shape. That's going to be the top stretcher. That piece will also hold the back panel of the cabinet. So, and you'll see as we get further in the video here, but that piece is kind of structural because this is going to have a pretty heavy top on it. And I'll make a video about that here in the future, but this thing is a little overbuilt. I took two pieces of 1/2 inch, glued that together for a 1 inch thick stretcher, and then it's like L shaped to hopefully hold more weight on the top. And yeah, and it's also connected with dominoes and Craig screws. So pocket hole screws for like the clamping pressure to hold the glue, and the dominoes to add a little bit of strength to that joint. You can see here that bottom stretcher, yeah, it's on the top right now because the cabinet is upside down, but I just did that so it was easier to install. Yeah, so I'm just putting in those pocket hole screws. Those are also, they also have some floating tenons in there and glue. So overall, like a really strong, solid joint. This thing's going to be pretty beefy when it's done. But it's an heirloom piece. Everything I make, I try to, I want it to last a long time. I want it to outlive me for sure. So, and this will do that. So yeah, I'm just putting in that back panel now. That's 1/2 inch plywood. No one's ever going to see that. The drawers are going to be on either side of the sink. The sink will have an opening, but the back will just be there for plumbing. So be putting holes through that, and it's not a decorative piece, but that's why I went with plywood. Yeah, so if you've made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you get some updates on future projects, and you get to follow along with this build. Like I said, there'll be a few more videos coming up. Thanks again.